Cassidy's magnetic grenade will also get updated to deal less damage and apply a slow as well as a hindered effect. This is a new status effect that prevents movement abilities from being used. Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. Also, Mei gets a new slow on her primary fire, which basically builds up to an effect that applies a much larger slow for 1.5 seconds. We're going to go over all of this in the video, guys, because it is the director's take, the updates for Season 5, specifically the balance updates for Season 5. Now, Aaron does touch on some stuff from Season 4, things like the state of Lifeweaver and Junker Queen. He also talks about, in a bit of detail, what they're going to do with Lifeweaver, but also one-shots is a big point of discussion here. Notably, Widowmaker and the range she can kill heroes that have got 200 HP with headshots, and Hanzo spamming logs from across the map. Okay, there's a lot of stuff to go over here, so let's just get stuck into this. Remember, as ever, there are links in the video description below that will take you directly to the points of the video that you would like to, I guess, see first. So if you want to see the Cassidy stuff, click the Cassidy link below and you'll go straight to the Cassidy section. Okay, let's do this. Let's begin with looking back at Season 4 and the state of the game according to Aaron Keller, and this is what he says. As Season 4 ends, I'd like to look back at the game's balance. This season, we saw a wide selection of heroes get played, and for the most part, the game felt fairly balanced. From a win rate perspective, Seasons 3 and 4 were some of the most balanced in recent Overwatch history. With this in mind, let's look at 3 different topics from Season 4 and talk about how they'll change in Season 5 and beyond. Specifically, I'd like to go over the heroes like Junker Queen and Lifeweaver, one-shots and crowd control abilities in 5v5. Okay, let's break down Junker Queen, and he says this. There were a few standouts from a tuning perspective in Season 4. In the mid-season patch, Junker Queen was given a series of buffs and she really started to dominate. Her win rate popped up by about 5%, and she went from being one of the lowest picked tanks to one of the highest. For most skill tiers, Queen and Reinhardt were the 2 most picked tanks for the latter half of the season. However, at Masters and above, Queen is far and away the most picked tank. One of the big changes that we made was to increase the healing received from her passive. We like this addition to her playstyle, but it makes Queen too survivable. So we'll be reducing the health she receives from commanding Shout from 200 to 150 to compensate. We'll also be increasing the cost of her ult by a small amount, since she is getting it at a faster rate than before the mid-season change. Now, a little thing I'd like to say on the Junker Queen stuff. I mean, this is like, okay, a 50 reduction in commanding Shout for the additional health you get when you pop it. That is quite a big nerf to that ability, but I still think that everything else that Junker Queen's got is still going to make her pretty good. Aaron does go on to say a little bit later on this blog that, yeah, they're going to keep looking at this and they'll keep making changes if they need to. But I still think Junker Queen's going to be a pretty solid pick. So I wouldn't be too worried if you're playing a lot of Junker Queen, because it's only a 50 reduction in your command and shout bonus health, which I don't think is too devastating. Although you never know. Let's move on to Lifeweaver. Now, Aaron says that Lifeweaver is a really dynamic hero. This kind of had me laughing because I'm like, dynamic, is that code word for crap? He is the most limp hero they have added into the game. He just does nothing. Like the funniest thing with Lifeweaver is you get a bunch of streamers that always like they're dying to find something interesting to stream with Overwatch, because just grinding out ranked games is like, it's a bit boring. So they always like to do these, let's take the new hero and let's get it up to GM and top 500. But nobody managed to do this with Lifeweaver. Like, running Lifeweaver only, it was like you just had to be carried by your team. And of course, obviously, if you're not putting in the sort of, I don't want to say putting in the effort, but if you're not trying to win, and by selecting Lifeweaver, it basically means that you're going to lose, unless your team absolutely pop off. Yeah, nobody completed that challenge. So, yeah, that's kind of a funny one. Anyway, this is what Aaron says. Lifeweaver is a really dynamic hero. Some of the plays that people have pulled off with him during Season 4 were pretty astonishing. However, he's not powerful enough to be a solid pick for most players. Previously, we stated that we would like there to be a reason to pick new heroes over others in the roster. This is still our goal for new heroes, because we want to sell more battle passes. We want them to bring something new to the table. However, at the moment, we are looking for the best way to bring Lifeweaver to a baseline. Once people are playing him more, we will get a cleaner read on the character. players will either start utilizing the varied parts of his kit, or we can look into adding something else to it. In Season 5, there will be quite a few changes, mostly buffs coming to Lifeweaver. We'll have specific details in the patch notes, but players can expect increases to his healing and damage output, a heal on life grip, a slightly reduced hitbox, and some quality of life changes to Petal platform. Okay, so the news here is Lifeweaver's terrible and they're going to giga buff him. We don't have the details yet, but they are going to reduce his hitbox size, which does make sense. The petals on his back are absolutely massive. I don't think they'll reduce his model size. I mean, they have done that in the past, so they could do that maybe, but I doubt it. I think they'll probably just reduce the petals because they're absolutely massive on his back. The only issue I've got, though, with this stuff is adding a heal to life grip. Now, I would say this gives a very muddled feeling for that ability. Life grip is when someone is low health, you pull them out of a dangerous situation, they're protected. I think it removes negative effects off them as well. But basically, you pull them towards you, they're protected. Then you're supposed to spam them with your primary fire healing, yeah? Or the other support heals them or whatever. Adding a heal to it sort of makes it something you're just going to use all the time. Like, it's on cooldown, I'm just going to use it because I need the extra heal. Well, this means people are going to get pulled around all of the time. So I know people are getting pulled anyway with Lifeweaver, although it's not that often because you don't really see him in games. But what I'm trying to get across, guys, is imagine, like, it's this mental change now of, like, I'm going to use life grip to save somebody who's in a bad position, to just, oh, we're in a massive fight, I'm just going to pop light, I'm just going to grip someone in the middle of the fight, grip them to me, like 2 meters or whatever, just because I want that heal to pump it in. It's going to feel not great. I don't agree with that change. I think that's actually kind of poor. We'll have to wait and see how this plays in the game, but I don't know. That just seems really poor to me. Yeah, Petal platform, I don't know what the quality of life changes to that would be. Probably something to do with its activation. But yeah, Lifeweaver needs a lot of work. I think it's interesting that Aaron says they're still looking for a baseline, and once they've got that, then they can start collecting data. I think, again, that's game developer code for nobody's playing this goddamn hero, so we have no data. So we need to do something, because he's just going to be the most unselected hero we've ever made. He does then go on to say, we'll continue to monitor both Junker Queen and Lifeweaver and make additional changes if necessary, which again is good news, but that's kind of stating the obvious. He's not just going to say, yeah, this is the only buff we're going to give him, and then we're never coming back, or we don't care about Junker Queen no more, we're making this change and that's it. No, they're constantly working on balance. Widowmaker, Hanzo, and one-shots. Now, this is going to be really spicy, and the nerfs to Widowmaker here are quite substantial. So Aaron says this, the community has also voiced concerns over the number of one-shots from both Widowmaker and Hanzo. We'd like to reduce the frequency of these in-game, as well as shore up some of the extreme sightlines in some of our maps. Widow's damage fall-off will change from 70 to 100 meters to 40 to 60 meters. That is absolutely massive. And get this as well, the damage fall-off scaler will also increase from 30% to 50%. She will still have the ability to one-shot 200 heroes at 50 meters or less, but further than that, it will no longer be a killing blow. That is massive, right? I'll read that again because that is absolutely massive. She will still have the ability to one-shot 200 health heroes at 50 meters or less, but further than that, it will no longer be a killing blow. What this means is that on maps like Junkertown, on maps like Circuit Royale, you're not just going to get instantly deleted because a Widowmaker simply exists on the map and is looking towards the point, essentially from their spawn, farming your whole team. That is not going to happen. That's going to be much better, and this is something that we've needed for a long, long time. Widow got really powerful in 5v5 because that one less tank means that there's one less person to mess with Widow, so unless people really commit to killing the Widow, Widow just gets a free reign. And like I said, on Junkertown and on Circuit Royale, Widow can just dictate the game. You know, she can just get a pick. You can't even get to her because of the way the map's designed. The tank can't go because the tank would be massively overextended. The only way to deal with it is to get your own Widow, and that's never good balance, is it, if you require the same hero to try and kill that hero. But yeah, Widowmaker, big nerfs are coming. So let's talk about Hanzo. Hanzo will receive a slight nerf to his damage so that he is no longer able to one-shot 250 health heroes. His sonic arrow will also be more recognizable by the enemy team. The intent here is to reduce his kills that feel like they come out of nowhere. We are constantly discussing the nature of one-shots in Overwatch 2 and whether they are healthy for the game in general. Well, the answer to that last statement is no, they're not healthy to the game in general, because the sheer existence of characters like Hanzo and like Widow that can instantly kill somebody, you know, just without them even doing anything. Like, the only, I guess, defense would be, okay, you've got bad positioning, so you've been killed. But, like, you just get killed, right? You can't always be in an immaculate position to break line of sight to those heroes. They will kill you, and it never feels good. It's like, oh, I've been killed. No one likes being killed by Hanzo. No one likes getting dominated by a Widow. So I think the Widow changes is good. The Hanzo change, though, is kind of interesting because Hanzo's still going to be able to one-shot 200 health heroes. Instead, they're targeting 250 health heroes. So they say Hanzo will receive a slight nerf to his damage so that he is no longer able to one-shot 250 health heroes, but he can still kill everyone under that, I would imagine. So yeah, he's still going to be kind of frustrating. He's still going to be able to just dome that Zen in your back line, just pop that Tracer, do whatever, right? Kill that Ana. So I don't know about Hanzo, but it's going to be interesting to see about this. Obviously with Hanzo, it's much more, I guess, difficult to land the shots. He's not a hit scan weapon, right? It's a big, massive projectile log, but it's still pretty easy to land Hanzo arrows. I mean, you just sort of spam the sight lines and you generally get something, right? So I don't know, but it is interesting that they are bringing this up. And again, it follows the theme of these dev director takes. They always have a section about the community. It's like, we've noticed this from the community, so we're going to do this. So yeah. Let's talk about crowd control abilities. So Aaron says this. And in fact, before we read this off, I kind of want to... Aaron doesn't say this. I want to say this. One of the core fundamental points of moving to 5v5 was a reduction in crowd control to make the game more FPS-y, to make the game more free-flowing. One of the worst things in any competitive game is if another player can prevent you from taking an action. It feels terrible in any game. If you're stunned, if you're rooted, if you're charmed, if you're whatever, right? Mind control, I don't know. It doesn't feel great in any game. So I thought we were going into a world where these were being reduced in Overwatch 2. What I'm about to read off to you guys now is them saying, nah, actually, we're going to go back to that world, sort of, because we still want them in the game. And I think it's for balance reasons. Okay. Well, I say balance reasons. I think for ease of balancing, maybe. I don't know. Let's break this down, though. Lastly, I'd like to talk a bit about crowd control abilities in-game. When we launched Overwatch 2, we made some significant changes to our combat model. The biggest was the shift from 6v6 to 5v5. A part of that change was to remove most crowd control abilities from our damage and support heroes. Overall, we think this was a positive change to the game. At times, the original game felt like you were in a pinball machine, but we have a lot of high mobility heroes in the roster, and a team can't always rely on their tank to take care of them. So, we're softening our approach here. We don't want to return to the state the game was in previously, but we feel like there is room for more crowd control, especially soft crowd control in our lineup. Okay, so that's the preamble of, yeah, we're going to put crowd control back into the game because one tank can't do everything. And we didn't like Overwatch 1 because it was a bit of a pinball machine, which is true. There was way too much crowd control in Overwatch 1. Overwatch 2 has felt a lot better with not having tons and tons of crowd control. But this is them saying we're going to add it back to the game. So let's take a look at what they're doing to two heroes in question. They'll be making changes to both Mei and Cassidy for Season 5 with this in mind. Mei's endothermic blaster will be updated. The primary fire will still slow targets, but it will also build up to an effect that will apply a much larger slow for 1.5 seconds. For players of the original game, this will feel familiar to the way her old weapon worked. So, Mei is going to be able to not freeze you, but heavily slow you down. So if you go near a Mei and she's hitting you with primary fire, and she keeps hitting you with primary fire, it will build up, and then you will have a much larger slow effect on you, essentially maybe even rooting you, but heavily reducing your movement speed, so you will die. I don't like that, but I understand Mei's the Frost hero, and yeah, I was hoping they did something with Mei where she could freeze you, and... Okay, no, let me rephrase that. I don't want to be froze by Mei. I want to be attacked with primary fire, so the ice is on me, and it's just slowing me the way it always has done in Overwatch 2. It's a bit annoying, but it's, you know, whatever, you can deal with it. But then, if Mei hits me with an alternate fire, you get some sort of added extra effect. This is something I've always been going on about Mei. I think it would make sense because it would make her a bit more sort of... There'd be a bit more skillful flow to her play instead of just trying to get those right-click or alternate fire headshots or just spamming primary fire. Because let's be honest, most of the time, you just spam primary fire and melee at point-blank range because it's just more consistent damage. But anyway, yeah, Mei's going to be able to slow you much more like she could in Overwatch 1. Not totally freeze you, but slow you down. Ugh. Cassidy's magnetic grenade will also get updated to deal less damage and apply a slow as well as a hindered effect. A new status effect that prevents movement abilities from being used. We're also going to move slowly and deliberately here, and if we cross a line, we will pull back. Right then, Cassidy's magnetic grenade will do less damage, but it's going to apply a slow effect to you. I don't know what percentage this is. I don't know how it compares to Mei. Aaron just literally says a slow effect. But then also, you become hindered. And hindered means you can't use movement abilities. So if you get near a Cassidy and he hits you with this new magnetic grenade, and you're Genji, you just can't dash. Or you're Winston, you just can't jump. Or you're Tracer, I guess, you just can't blink. I think this is terrible. I actually think this is terrible. I'm just going to throw it out there. I've been on a bit of a crusade against Cassidy for a while because I don't know why. In what world they were like, let's give a cowboy a grenade. Like, what cowboy has a grenade? Cowboys have whips. I'm an Englishman, for God's sake. And I know cowboys have got whips. Oh, Lord. I don't know. But, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to leave it at that because, well, I have to because that's all of the post. We're going to go into a brave new world here with Season 5. Crowd control's coming back. Widow and Hanzo are getting nerfed. And Lifeweaver's getting a big, big ability buff rework thingy happening to him to make him more selectable because he simply isn't selectable. Ooh, this is going to be a spicy one. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below, guys. And yeah, I've been Stylosa. You can follow me on everything, which is at Stylosa. Subscribe to the channel. It helps a ton. Leave a comment below. Like the video. It is awesome. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you soon.